Hey everyone, today I'm going to share lessons I learned from a recent father-son hike out west. It was absolutely incredible. It was a completely new experience and I learned a ton of things that I didn't expect. It was way more rewarding than I had ever planned. At a certain part of the climb, it changed how I think about fear. And look, it was really, really hard. I'm going to share with you why some of the kids did not make it to the top. Actually, only 70% of the kids made it to the top, and I'm going to tell you why some of them didn't. And I hope you can learn from these experiences, from the lessons I took away. But more importantly, I hope it inspires you to do something like this yourself with a loved one, kid, whoever it might be. Check it out. To set the stage about the trip first, we went out west. We flew to Denver, had a couple-hour drive, kind of southwest Denver. If you're familiar with skiing resorts like Breckenridge area, but probably still an hour away from there, actually. But in that general region, you get the point. We climbed two mountains, Mount White and Mount Ontario, both around 14,000 feet. Actually, Mount Ontario was 14,267 feet that we were intending to summit. That was definitely the game plan. So it was 3 days of hiking, 2 nights of camping. We had to carry our packs, all of our food, everything that we wanted for those 3 days had to be with us, and we were going to carry them up the mountain. And then not just me, my son was going to do that as well. So it was not going to be an easy trip, but we thought it was going to be just amazing and memorable. And the first lesson, what I want to do today is share the lessons I learned from the trip. The first lesson is we could say, hey, it was going to be hard. We just had to start. But honestly, the first step we have to take a lot of times, we just have to schedule it. We have to schedule the most important things in our life. Otherwise, life gets busy. We get consumed with all kinds of things. We're going to second guess, should we do this trip 5 days away from the rest of the family? There's a lot that this, pulled me away from. Is it worth it? But life's important. It's busy. It's full, sports events, all kinds of things. And that's no different. But there's also all these doubts before we even were ready to fly out there. Are we going to fail? Is Knox going to fail? Is he going to be able to handle it? Is he going to get altitude sickness right when we land? Is this going to be a disaster? Will we even get there? Is this the right time? Is he the right age? Are we physically ready to do it? There's all kinds of questions that we had and just limiting beliefs. And then we could get there and it could be horrible weather. We didn't know that either. So the lesson is that the most important things don't happen by accident. They have to be scheduled. So as we're going into the end of the year here, we're planning for 2026 or whenever you are, if you're planning for next quarter, if you're listening to this later, you got to schedule the most important things for next quarter, for next year. You have to schedule those things now. If that's a trip, if that's something you want to get done, something you want to accomplish, you have to schedule the time for it. I'm not great at this, quite frankly, but you have to do it. In his book, Living Forward by Michael Hyatt, which I love that I went through the exercise that he has. He just, what gets scheduled gets done. If there's something like this you want to do, you can absolutely do it. I had never even thought about anything like this. Get it scheduled, get it on the calendar, get it done now. So that's lesson number one. So now we get out there. Okay, we're on the trip. We get our packs ready. Night one, we're kind of just have a meet and greet. Nothing, too fancy. Not a lot of sleep because of the altitude, but we get there the next morning. We're ready. We're at the bottom of the mountain, and we just have to start. We have to go. And I'll tell you that we got started, and we're like, okay, taking the steps wasn't hard, but the first climb was like, oh wow, what did we get ourselves into? Our legs weren't loose. The heavy packs on our back was really wearing on our hips. And I was like, there's no way myself or Knox, we're not going to finish this hike. I mean, we have to climb, I forget if it was 7,000 feet up to the 14,000 foot summit. Altitude, not an easy climb. But as we started to move, we started to loosen up. Our bodies adapted to the elements. And the lesson is you don't get clarity or you don't have clarity. You don't have confidence at first. You have to start. And then you start the first, I don't know how much the climb was. I was doubting it. But as we got into it more and more, I was like, okay, I think we'll be able to handle this. So just start, just get going. In his book, Atomic Habits, James Clear says, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get started. And that's really the lesson here. And really the first two lessons are around this. But A, you have to schedule it. And B, you have to get started. So I encourage you, if you're thinking about something, get it scheduled right now. If you're in it, get started now. One of the most surprising things about the trip when just even the night before we started it was the packs and how heavy the packs were. I took pictures and I was videoing because like it's hard to just even explain how heavy these packs were. They said that someone can carry like, I forget if it was 25, 30% of their body weight. I mean, Knox probably weighs, 60 pounds or so. So he was carrying 15, 20 pounds with him the whole time. And that's a lot of weight. We didn't bring anything extra. We didn't bring any extra food. We brought food, but no extra food. We brought clothes, but no extra clothes. That's right. Same clothes. I didn't have this plan, but Knox loved this. He doesn't like to shower. He doesn't like to change his clothes. If we didn't make him do those things, he would never do them. So he was most excited about that, honestly. No electronics, no games, all that stuff stayed behind. And honestly, I think the analogy here to life is that we have all this weight that is constantly being put on our shoulders and being put on our shoulders. And that's going to happen. Let's not do it to ourselves. Let's not add the extra stuff to our packs, to our weight that we don't really need. So whatever those extra things are that are lingering or there for you, I heard Jesse Itzler said like every year you should clean out your closet and just like get rid of stuff, clean out your basement, whatever it is, remove clutter, get it out of the way, whether that's things, schedule, get rid of things that you no longer need that are not necessary because you're going to have the required things, the heavy burdens that you have to figure out. We create so much unnecessary heaviness. Get rid of what you can because there's going to be challenging things is the reality. Start unloading those rocks, getting rid of those things. The lighter the pack, the easier the climb. And that was definitely true as we progressed. We started eating food and, or getting rid of some things. And it's like, okay, the packs are a little bit lighter, or we got better at, okay, we're close to a stream. So we don't need to have 3 things of water with us constantly because that was a lot of weight. So we got more efficient as we learned that. So number 3 is the lighter the pack, the easier the climb. And I think that's true both on our climb and that's true in life as well. One of the happiest, most joyful moments I had out there is we're hiking up and I was there with my buddy Brian and his son Nash and my son Knox. And there's a couple other kids there too. I think there's 4 boys together and we're hiking up and I don't know how it started, but one of the kids started chanting, "The Saints go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah." And I'm not going to sing it for you. I'm not a good singer. You can tell that now. It was so neat. They're just like, I just told myself, I remember telling myself in that moment, like, I just need to be right here, right now. I can't be thinking about anything. Like, I just need to like take this in. And I just sat there and like, I was listening to them because they were so happy in that moment. It was so neat. I remember it so vividly. And I think that's part of the message too, is like, if you want to remember moments and happy moments and joyful moments, be extremely present in those moments. And I forced myself to do it. And it was so amazing. There was no distractions, no phone, no to-do list, no business, no thoughts of anything. It was just, I'm going to be there and like, I'm going to just embrace this and take it in. Eckhart Tolle in his book, The Power of Now, which is a deep book, but I highly encourage you to read it. It was like mind-blowing for me. He said that joy only exists in the present moment. That's the only way you can have joy, if it's in that specific moment that you're in. So I just encourage you to create situations. If you're into hunting, if you're into running, if you're into whatever hobbies you have that can be outdoors, presence invites joy. The other book that I'm a huge fan of in my top 10 for sure, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. When you're in the present moment and things quiet down, and this wasn't just, in this moment when these kids were chanting, but also in general in the hike. But he says, hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life. Be in the present moment and be engaged. And I think that's very true as well. Just when you can be present, you can really have peace and joy. So, supporting authors Eckhart Tolle and John Mark Comer, two of my top 10 books for sure. And I felt that there. That was absolutely fantastic. So create situations where you can be present and in the moment, and then just be intentional about being that as much as possible, especially in this world we live in where there's so much going on, so many to-do lists, tasks, things to get done, places to run, sporting events to be at. Be present as much as you can. There was a lot of different challenges, like, the heavy packs. It was warm during the day. It was cold at night. It was windy. It was dark. For me, sleeping was the hardest part. It's just hard to get good sleep. So it was 9 father-son combos on this trip, I think. Actually, there was twin boys. So maybe 9 dads and 10 boys. And of those, 3 of the 10 boys didn't make it. I mean, it was challenging. One of them was because they were pulled off the mountain. So they couldn't. they wanted to keep going and they were so sad that they had to go down. But when you get altitude sickness, really the only way to fix it is to go down. So the big thing is that kid, he doesn't, and especially his dads, they don't regret making the effort, going after it. They didn't say, I quit, I want to go down. They're like, I'm not quitting, I want to keep going. But the guide said, no, if we get altitude, we just got to be precautionary here. We have to get you down the mountain. So they hoofed it down the mountain. One of the things that I learned, I didn't expect or necessarily know or hadn't thought about, but when you do hard missions, like if this is something you're trying to accomplish at work, as a family, a hard project, so physical, mental, whatever the challenge is, when you're doing that with other people, it really brings a sense of, just builds relationships, builds community. We had 8 or 9 father-son groups. There was a lot of people struggling for a lot of different reasons. I just said one of them, but throughout the hike, if that was just they got tired, if that was, they were getting frustrated with getting their packs on, or kids complaining about food, or, there was all kinds of issues that came up, if you can imagine, with 8, 9, 10-year-old boys on the hike. So, there was frustrated parents, frustrated kids, tired, all kinds of things happening. But you just saw people step in and just helping. Like if it was going well for, this group, then they reached out and helped this group or whatever it might be. But there was so many people just automatically helping, and it just created a sense of relationship and bonding. So when you're going through hard challenges at work, at home, but you're kind of doing it together, I think adversity creates relationships and strengthens them. The next lesson is around the 2 a.m. wake up call. So I just remember on day 2, we're going to bed. It gets dark, whatever time, but you're going to bed like at 8:30, 9 o'clock. Like we are setting our alarm for 2 a.m. because we want to get up. We want to hit the summit by sunrise, and you want to get off the mountain pretty early in case there's storms midday. So there's a couple reasons for it, but I was just like, this is 2 a.m. This is ridiculous. Like 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. And on night 3, you're saying, I got to get up at 2 a.m. This seems over the top. And we woke up at 2 a.m. It was pitch black out. It was freezing cold, 40 degrees. It was windy. We were tired. We were exhausted. And I was like, it just did not seem necessary to me. But you know what? The reality is the early bird gets the worm, and that's on the mountain, and that's also in life. And, we got up early, and once we got moving, once we got our bodies moving, we were cold. We started to warm up, but it was worth it. And, the lesson here is discipline over comfort gets rewarded. Hard decisions create better things later. So I've talked about this before. Like if you pick the hard things to do in life, like, take care of yourself, do the hard task, have the hard conversation, whatever it is. If you do those things now, and you're disciplined now at a younger age or earlier in your career, or when your family's younger with your kid, whatever, if you're disciplined early, life will get better or life will get easier later. And I'm a strong believer of that. Whereas if you're not disciplined, there's actually a graphic on this I've posted before. But if you're not disciplined now and you do the easy thing now, it gets harder later. So Miracle Morning Millionaires, your first victory of the day is waking up with purpose. And I just think getting up in the morning, having a plan, doing it, if you're accomplishing the day before a lot of people are out of bed, you're going to win. Miracle Morning Millionaires here, the book Miracle Morning, I would strongly recommend those. The single scariest part of this hike, I didn't really appreciate it. Now that I've been there, I have a perspective on it, but it was the ridge. So the ridge is when you climb the mountain and you're close to summit elevation, summit height, but then you have to cross over the ridge to get to the summit. In this case, that's what we had to do. And this was around 4 a.m. We were doing this, maybe 4:30, I don't know, but it was pitch black. We couldn't see anything. And, the physical part of the challenge was hard, but this was like messing with us mentally and emotionally. Knox was scared. I was scared for me, and especially for him. A lot of times, like we had a hiking stick and I was holding it out because I just couldn't, we had headlamps on, whatever, but I was holding my stick out so that if he fell, I would catch him. Did I think he would fall and tumble to his death? Not really, but maybe kind of, because you couldn't see. And lack of sight and lack of experience are extremely just scary things. So we went slow. It took a long time. We did it. We crossed it. We got to the summit. The sunrise was absolutely amazing. It was beautiful. There's pictures. I mean, Knox, you look at his face and he was frozen holding that sign. He was just completely frozen. It was so cold. He's like, he was exhausted. It was so worth it. Of course, when you get the summit, you go back down. We had to cross the ridge again. Two major changes. One, it was light out. That, of course, helped. You could see, you had clarity from just the light. But two, we had done it before. We're like, okay, we did this. This wasn't like it was more just fear, not the actual thing. So we had a lot of clarity. The first time is always the hardest part. Fear thrives in darkness, but your confidence grows when you get clarity. And it actually reminded me a lot of I had so much, if you're thinking about something and you've been thinking about it for a long time, I actually just went through a exercise, not goal setting, but fear setting, where you really think through. I'm not like, oh, name all your fears. But if there's things like you've been thinking about for a long time that you wanted to do, but you're afraid of doing it for whatever reason, Tim Ferriss has a fear setting process that you can go through. And I wish I had done that, because when I bought my first rental, I just remember, we're talking not just a year, but 2, maybe 3 years of procrastinating, what's going to go wrong, all these things that might happen. And when I finally pulled the trigger on this thing that I wanted to do for so long, there was so much clarity and confidence around it. So I think that's a good analogy. So what are you afraid of? What is not just afraid of that you want to do? If there's something that you're fearful of that you really want to do, you got to step into it. You got to do it. Another element, and I talked about the relationships, but this is an add-on to this, is the power of being around growth-minded people, growth-minded friends. I mentioned Brian, a great friend of mine. We talk every week. He has helped me grow so much. Hopefully I help him grow a little bit too. But, we had all kinds of conversations that the kids heard or were a part of. And also the dads had a lot of conversations. We talked about, parenting was natural there. Of course, we talked about business. We talked about faith. We talked about health. We talked about just our missions and deeper conversations, challenges, struggles that we had together. But we're all out there wanting to be better, in different areas of life. Most kids were 8 to 10 years old, maybe 11-year-old. And then one of the guys, I'll say, was 16 with his dad. And he was there, but he took a different approach. He didn't hang out with the 10-year-olds. He hung out with the dads, and he was like a sponge. He was popping around what do you do? What is your recommendations as you go into college? What should I think about from a career perspective? And he was just asking questions the whole time. And his dad loved every minute of it. He was like, holy cow, how much power is there in what he is learning? And a lot of times kids don't want to hear it from their parents, but they'll listen to someone else. So life has challenges, but do life with people that are growing and that want to grow. They don't need to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Everyone has issues and challenges and adversity. But if they just want to grow and want to get better, and you're talking about those things with somebody else, you're going to grow and you're going to get better. What a great journey. It was absolutely fantastic. Once we got above the tree line, you could start to see kind of where we were coming from, the town we started at, that you could see those buildings. And as you got up higher and higher, you could just see how far we've come, how far we've climbed, if you will. And I think if you're going after something and climbing and growing, make sure you take that time and look back and say, okay, where did I come from? Who was I? Who am I becoming? In this case, it was just really neat to see the progress we made, and then also just God's creation. The earth is absolutely beautiful out west. The mountains are absolutely incredible. We were there in August. There was snow on the ground in areas. It was just so neat to see, even the different climates that we kind of went through as we climbed from the tree line and higher. So, things like climbing mountains, doing hard things in business, in life, they change your perspective. You grow from them a lot, and you see things differently when you finish them. So don't forget to look back and reflect on that. And I've talked about this before. I've had guests on, but really part of this has been, we're trying to put our kids, when we can, we're trying to create adversity and challenges for them. So we do 5Ks together, and it was cool. Knox did this. We did some training. We didn't do a ton. I was doing some other training for another event, but he ran a couple times with me. He's outside a ton. So they just have energy, and He's running a ton in our neighborhood. We're fortunate to have great neighbors and great people around. So they're just out there constantly. But it was hard. It was hard for him physically. He was tired, exhausted, and like he had to get over fears emotionally. And I think that's so important. And, he's progressed now because of that. Like we do 5Ks and other things, and he keeps getting better. And I think his times and stuff improve. He's growing, but also he's just getting mentally tougher, I think. So that's the intent behind this. And you rise to the level of your challenges and you fall to the level of your preparation is a little bit of this too. Is like, you got to be prepared for things, but you also have to keep preparing for hard things by doing hard things. And, it's maybe cliche, but I think there's so much truth to it. And the body-mind connection, that's real. So the kind of byproducts of that, how it unfolded for Knox too, is we realized I don't have a lot of experience camping, and he was pretty naturally good at it. So by day 2, setting up the tent, taking down the tent, he was telling me how to do things. But it was pretty neat. He uncovered some gifts. He's mechanical. He liked to problem solve, hands-on. He definitely gets that part from his mother's side and their family, probably more than he does from me. But it was just a byproduct of trying something different, finding some different gifts that, he had. He loves to build things, to tear things down, things like that. So it was really neat. What I just take away the most is there's a lot of lessons from this. Like, you got to schedule these things. You got to do these things. And there's way more lesson. Like, I didn't think I would be talking about this. I didn't have this intention. I didn't think I'd have these different lessons or ahas maybe from this event. And really, it's not about that. I'll remember this forever. And I'm hopeful Knox will as well. It was so rewarding. So many lessons from it. If you can do anything like this, this doesn't have to be out west. By the way, Belay Expeditions did it. They facilitated the event. So I'd highly recommend them. They were awesome. Megan was awesome. So I'd encourage you to check them out. And you can do group things or individual, I'm sure there's all kinds of different things they can do, but it was absolutely fantastic. It doesn't need to be out west. If you can take a long 1-day hike with a son or daughter, 1-day trip with them individually, the one-on-one time with kids, I think is so valuable for us, especially it's hard because we have 5, but taking that one-on-one time, we're hoping to do an event with my daughter next year, something like this, although there might be a conflict that we can't get out of because I just talked about scheduling it. So I don't want to be a hypocrite, but I just really encourage you, if you can find these trips where you just overnight get away from the chaos of life with your kids, they will, it'll build a relationship with them so much. So it was really neat for me. I was excited to share these lessons with you. This is something that came out of really hanging out with growth-minded people, really planning out my next year, my next quarter. What can I do to have courage, build grit, things like that. So I just encourage you to think about that as we head into next year. If you want help, we're working on bringing out the Purpose Matrix tool, which I have built out. You can go online at thepurposematrix.com really soon here. If it's not by the time we release, it'll be shortly thereafter. And this will help you kind of think through the most important areas of life and where you want to do things like this. So I just encourage you to not get too much in the rush of business. These things help with business, but focus on family and doing things like this because it was so rewarding for me. For the Purpose Matrix, signing off.